Hello, everyone. Something I've been interested in lately is the world's fairs, and I know it sounds a little bit out there in regards to different interests and things like that, but it's more so to do with the narrative of it and what we've been taught around what these world's fairs were for and are. And for a long time, I mean, you may know too that the world's fairs that were prominent throughout the 19th and 20th centuries were designed to be temporary structures. So my understanding was that they were just literally that, like just sort of as we would know today, structures that were just easily erected so that it can easily be taken down again in the form of, like maybe steel setup, aluminium perhaps, some glass, maybe some brickwork and stonemasonry and things like that. But I found this video recently by a gentleman whose name escapes me, John Levy, I think it is. He goes through and has a look at the buildings and the extent of buildings that are actually a part of many of the world's fairs, including the 1893 World Fair in Chicago, otherwise known as the Columbus or Columbian World Fair. And I was just struck by both the magnitude, the technology, the construction of it, by up to, let's have a look at this bastion of information that we have. 200 new buildings, but deliberately temporary. Only 2 remain of the 200 that were built. But let's have a look at these buildings and some of these waterways that were constructed, some of these canals, statues, etc., these artworks that were constructed in a 2-year period in Chicago between 1890, 1891 and 1893. I mean, I've got a fairly good understanding of, through my job, construction, building, materials, what it takes to build as well. And the narrative is that all of this, I mean, you can see the size of it compared to the people here, that all of this was built in a 2-year period and it was meant to be temporary. I mean, my understanding was always that, yeah, again, like I said before at the beginning, that these world fairs, I always knew they were built as like temporary things, and then once they leave, a little bit like the Olympics, they may get used for something else, or yeah, they're just taken down, all these buildings, but they are that, just temporary structures. But these do not look like temporary structures to me. I mean, the amount of work that would be required to undertake this is just insane. So it's like the main area. Look at the size of this statue in this waterway. This is looking from the other end. I mean, this artwork, I mean, these are palaces that have been built. They're not, these aren't temporary structures, they're palaces. I mean, look at that. And it was all torn down. 2 buildings remain. I mean, look at the detail of this, of these columns here. So only 2 remain. It's in here somewhere, down at the bottom, maybe somewhere. There were 14 main great buildings. The names are odd. The administration building, agricultural building, the manufacturers and liberal arts building, the mines and mining building, the electricity building, machinery building, the women's building, the transportation building, the fisheries, forestry, horticulture, and anthropology. There's 2 surviving structures. Almost all the fair structures were designed to be temporary. Of more than 200 buildings erected for the fair, the only 2 which still stand in place are the Palace of Fine Arts, which is this one here, and the World Congress Auxiliary Building. I mean, fuck. Let's have a look at some of these images. This is the horticultural building. I mean, look at the detail in that. Apologies, the images aren't that good a quality on this. I've had to increase the zoom just to get at least it's sort of larger image to present on the screen. I mean, look at that. The stonework involved to create this would just be incredible. So out of the, was it 14 or 12 main buildings? 14 main buildings, of which this is an example, to be built in a 2-year period. I mean, look at that, the manufacturer's building. Look at that thing. There's that statue again. Called it the Statue of Liberty. This one is one that really interests me. The transportation building. Have a look at the entrance to that. My God. And this is a temporary structure, and it was all, I mean, what sort of, the only thing I could think of is what sort of reality were they living in when they decided in 1890 to build these absolutely incredible structures that are just absolutely stunningly beautiful and would have taken such immense work to create and construct, to then just say, well, we're going to just tear them all down now. After the 6 months, the fair was open for 6 months. We're just going to tear them all down now, except for 2. Machinery hall. I was going to say machinery hall. I think that is supposed to be machinery, actually. It's quite funny. They've put a capital H in there. I mean, look at that. Look at the size of the people. I mean, the artwork. Look at that. That's the agriculture building. Does that look like a temporary structure to you? It doesn't to me. Look at the immensity of that thing. Where's the farming structures? Yeah. Palace of Fine Arts. I mean, look at it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine us building this today in a 2-year period? Can you imagine anyone in the world being able to do this? The women's building, agriculture building, peristyle from the lake, and yeah, I mean, look at that. It's a very Greco-Roman style architecture, very ornate, very detailed. A statue spinning me out. This Ferris wheel too. Look at the size of this Ferris wheel. Look at the huge, it's the width of it. Absolutely incredible piece of engineering. And the size of it. So the question is, was this truly built in a 2-year period? These amazing structures, these amazing waterways, power, electricity that was through there as well. Or were these structures actually already there and had been there for quite a long period of time? But the narrative that we've been told is that this was built in a 2-year period and it was meant to be destroyed afterwards. I mean, why the fuck would you take any of this down? I was shocked when I've always knew that these world fairs, I'm going to say this again, I always knew these world fairs were designed to be temporary. But my thoughts that the structures that were built were very much temporary looking type structures. These aren't temporary type structures, temporary type looking structures. This is like a a palatial area of just incredible and exquisite engineering, building, design, construction. And yeah, I can't wrap my head around the idea that this was just all created in a 2-year period. And then after 6 months, it was all demolished, except for 2 of the buildings. I can't wrap my head around that that would be a viable thing to do. I mean, we're not we're not talking about the type of bland buildings we build these days. I mean, these are just on another level. I find it interesting the people that are around here too. There's a bit of a crowd there, but there's not many. And then in these photos, not many crowds. Look at that. And this is only one example. There are many fairs, like there's one in St. Louis as well, which I might do another video on, where the buildings are just as incredible. I mean, look at that. Absolutely stunning. I mean, these waterways, to construct all this, like if you've never had an understanding or been in the field of design and construction of buildings and such, like it's hard to quantify how difficult this would be to do and create in a 2-year period at a time when they were really just getting around on like a horse and cart. I mean, 1890s. I mean, just incredible. I think that's Crystal Palace in England that was built. Look at that. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, I just wanted to make a video on that. It definitely had me thinking about things, narratives. Like if this wasn't a temporary, if these weren't temporary structures, if these were actually built quite a long time ago, and the history of those people and the history of the construction of these buildings has been replaced with a new narrative of a world fair with these weird titles being given or names being given to these buildings, then like, what's going on? These buildings are just incredible. The immense crowd. It's that same photo. The only photo I can find I've ever been able to see or find with any decent crowd is this particular one. This particular photo. Yeah, it's just very odd. So I mean, yeah, if it wasn't built as part of this World's Fair, if these weren't designed and constructed to be temporary structures, then who built them? Who built this? Like, over 200 acres, 14 main buildings and hundreds of others. And we're told this was built in a 2-year period, temporarily, to be temporary structures. I mean, damn. Boggles the mind. All right. That's just something interesting I found. Please check out some more of the other ones. I might make a video on too, but like the St. Louis Fair, San Francisco, for example. It's just very interesting that we've been told that these are built for a 6-month World Fair that are designed to be basically demolished, and done so and built in in a 2-year period. I can't believe it. In the 1890s, again, when they were getting around on like horse and carts, just does not make any sense to me at all. It's like feels to me like a black cat in the Matrix type moment. It's like, this doesn't make sense. There's a fundamental shift in my understanding of reality, that we're being told that these buildings, I mean, look at this. Were created in a 2-year period and designed to be demolished. Not just the buildings, but yeah, again, the waterways. Like, the amount of infrastructure required to complete and build all this is just insane. There's no way we'd do it. I mean, there's no way we would do this today. No way we would be capable of building this today. Not a chance. We probably could if we diverted some of that money away from the military-industrial complex and building bombs to go drop on other people on the other side of the world, and instead focused on our own soil, on our own nations, and developing our own nations. But that's not the way it is. So yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.